like with older kids when I was little, so that she made me stay in my grade socially. But then during class, they would pull me out of class and take me to the big kids classes when I was in elementary school. So I was reading like way advanced, and I was doing 3 grades ahead in math. And I went to a private school, so they could actually let me, they like adapted for me. They even made like a special thing for me and this other kid who were getting really good grades. But it was Catholic school, so it was like Catholic history, and I had to read this book about Catholicism. So it wasn't very helpful in my opinion. It didn't really advance me that much. It was more of a waste of time. But that's okay. When I got to high school, I tested into calculus, and I got scared of having a class with a bunch of older kids. Like, I did not want to be looked at as like a giant nerd, especially as a freshman, because I had changed schools and I didn't know anybody, and I was like, I am not going to be in this class with all these senior kids. But then when I reached 16, I went to college instead of high school, and I just did full-time running start. So I didn't have to go to class at all anymore. And when I was 17, I was going to move out of my house, and I had a plan. I had a bunch of money saved up, and I had an apartment picked out with 2 of my friends, and we were gonna live together because I was gonna graduate early. So I was gonna be done and with my AA by middle of senior year. Like I think it was February or January, something like that, when the semester was over. And so I was really excited, and at the time I was dating this person that was 23. So I was 17 and he was 23. And my mother was not happy about this. And it's a long story, but she wasn't happy that I could like do whatever I wanted to do, and she still wanted control over me. She wasn't ready for me to move out, and she went along with my plan, but she totally faked it. And she wasn't really ever supportive of the fact that I was gonna move out. But the weekend that I was going to move out, I was visiting my dad in Idaho, and for that weekend, it was like a 3-day weekend, and I got to fly down to see him on 3-day weekends. It was part of the court order for mandatory visitation rights to see my dad, which was awesome. I loved seeing my dad. So I had packed my stuff, I was ready to move, and I got home. She calls me, I was at school, and this was February 17th of 2005, or 2006, I'm sorry, 2006. And she calls me, and I'm in class, I'm at the high school, and she's like, you don't have any class, what are you doing? Like, thinking that I was like out doing stuff or skipping school or something. And I was like, I actually am in school right now. And I had this, like, I think it was like a history class that I had to take. Anyway, she starts yelling at me, and I get home, and she's like, well, pack a couple extra bags because you won't be coming home. And so I ended up having to go down to Boise, and I was still gonna move back. I was gonna fly back and move out and live with my friends. But she went down to my school, to my high school and the college, and withdrew me from school because she had parental rights. So they let her withdraw me from school. So I was about to graduate, and she withdrew me. So in the middle of my classes, which was like, it was too late to withdraw. So I have W's, it's withdrawal on your transcript. And I think it was like 22 credits out of 24 for graduation, because they counted every class as like a point. And don't quote me on this, it was like 22 or 24 credits you needed for high school graduation, and I was like right there. I needed like 2 more credits. And so I tried to enroll in the high school in Boise to finish high school, and they gave me a shit fucking time. It was Centennial High School in Boise. It was out by Eagle, Idaho. And I couldn't go to the high school by my house where my dad lived because they were full. I had to drive all the way out to Eagle, Idaho to go to this high school. And they were like, you're gonna need 2 more years of classes. They basically treated me like a high school dropout, and said because I had 24 credits, it wasn't enough for their school, that they count it differently, and they need 40 something credits for graduation for high school. So they treated me like I was like stupid and didn't have any credits. And so anyway, I was gonna have to go there for like 2 more years, and I was 17 and I was about to move out, and I was just like, fuck this shit. So I got a job and I worked at Quiznos. It's where I met my friend John, and I saved up a bunch of money to move out, and like, because I needed more money because now I needed a car and I needed to move back to Washington. And I didn't know what I was going to do for school, but I had to do one thing at a time. And so I found out they had a high school completion program at the college where you get your diploma, and all you have to do is pay for your classes. So I didn't want is it a GED? I didn't want that because that doesn't reflect me as a person. And like, no offense to people who do, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that I worked fucking hard, really fucking hard, to have my AA and my high school diploma, and I didn't want to give up on that goal. And so I went to the college, and I only needed one or two classes. I think it was an art class. Yeah, I think it was just one class that I needed, and I took drawing. And so I ended up taking this art class, and art was not my thing. I was like science and math nerd. I wanted to be an architect. I was all set on doing like, you know, architecture. Anyway, so I took this art class. It cost me like $900, and then I got my apartment, which was like $450 a month to live with my roommates. And within a month of me living there, there was drama with an ex-boyfriend of mine who went crazy about me dating this other guy, and he lost it, and the big fight broke out. It's a long story, but he moved out, so we had to scramble, and I had to get another place to live. And anyway, I lent out my room to some homeless people. And anyway, it was just a fucking debacle, you guys. Like, talk about a mess right there, right when I needed to have like stability in my life. And my long story short is that I ended up getting my high school diploma. I ended up having a completely different track because everything cost so much money, and I was all on my own. And instead of having like a degree and being able to get a job, like a good job, I had to work at like a fast food restaurant, and then I got a job at the coffee shop and made tips. But I mean, holy fucking hell, my mom sent me back so much. And her reasoning was, here's what she said. She goes, education is a privilege, and I'm going to teach you that. And what I learned, I did not learn what she wanted me to learn, of course. We never do, because I think that was crazy. What I learned is that having a mother that supports you as a person